Have you had enough of hurting each other? Is your partner hurting you? Are you hurting your partner? Are you ready for a change? Are you ready to stop the hurt cycle? As a stepmom, this hurt cycle can become very real very fast. It refers to this repeated pattern where you're constantly inflicting emotional pain, either your partner to you or you to your partner. Talking with each other about the stepkids' homework schedule or who's going to make breakfast or who's going to drive the kids or how to deal with your stepkids' mother. Those conversations can be like grenades in an otherwise really great relationship. So how do you stop hurting each other over these, daily life topics and also over the big topics? Like, who's going to pay for college? Are you going to be contributing anything towards school or college or other expenses related to your stepkids? That's often a really big one. And other topics that I'm sure you can think of. So the hurt cycle happens when we are having these conversations and we feel hurt or our partner feels hurt. And I want to say this is really important because it doesn't necessarily mean that your partner or you are intentionally doing this, but it feels there's pain, right? The unresolved pain of past experience is often the cause. So, do you have emotional pain from your life, from your past that you've brought into this step-family relationship? And you're having a hard time, partly because your partner, the way they're talking to you or the things they're expecting you to do, poke the wound, right? Do you have these reactions that seem to you out of proportion with what's happening, right? That can be an indicator. And I just want to say it's not unusual. We all are walking around with pain, unresolved pain, and life shows us that. Life pokes us. And that's our cue to get some help. It can cause negative communication patterns if we don't get help and if it's all really unconscious. We might also have learned negative communication patterns from, the way we were raised. So those are really important to untangle. And we're going to talk a little bit about all of this in this video today. The unhealthy communication habits are like blaming, stonewalling, sarcasm, just poking the other person's wound so they can feel the pain that you're feeling. I do talk about this in another video that I'll link down below about something I call the STAR method of communication to help you not do those things. There are certain behaviors that we might be sensitive to. So, for example, I've mentioned it in several videos, so you may, if you've seen those, the eye roll the eye roll that the stepkids would give used to just wound. Oh my gosh, it poked my wound big time. And it was so hard. I felt just rejected and judged and alone and abandoned, totally out of proportion. And it harkened back to my own childhood in the home and also in middle school. So I had to work on that because my communication pattern that would come when I would be triggered like that, I would sort of shrink. That was my communication pattern. I would just sort of shrink and not really know what to say and feel overwhelmed. And I would just leave the room and not engage. Now, that's okay. It's totally fine. Self-protection, right? But the feeling inside and what I was communicating to them, I wasn't really communicating that I cared. I was just sort of shrinking and walking away instead of showing up like an adult that they could count on and saying, hey, I can see this isn't a good time to talk. I'm going to go do something else, right? There's a subtle difference there, but it's powerful. And so your communication patterns are showing up. And, what are you noticing? How long have you been in stepfamily in this role as stepmom? Has it been long enough for you to notice some patterns that maybe you'd like to shift? If you could make a note of those or journal them and get them out of your head, they're maybe 2 or 3 or 10 or 15. It doesn't matter. There's no magic number here. But once you start writing them down and seeing them on the page, then something kind of cool happens because when you're talking with your partner or your stepkids, you've brought it to your conscious mind by writing it down. It's so cool. And you're more likely to catch yourself doing it. And then if you catch yourself doing that enough, often enough, you're more likely to interrupt that pattern eventually. Now, what might help you interrupt that pattern, and what helped me interrupt that pattern was counseling. Uh, that's what counselors are for. They can get right down to where that reaction comes from, typically in the past, and rework it and sort of discharge the energy around it, so you're less likely to get triggered. So that's one method. Now, there are two more methods I want to talk about, but first I want to tell you that if you want to dive deeper into a way to communicate with your partner, your stepkids or the biomom, really anyone in life, that is about saying what you need to help you get your needs met in a way that helps them also feel like you care about their needs, but ensures that you ultimately will get your needs met because you're in charge of that. It's called the STAR method, and I've made a video to it, and I'll link it down below. There is also down below a link for 3 assessments and an ebook to really help you find what those triggers are, where those places are where you could be setting some more boundaries, the places that you're in control of. And once you start doing that, you're less likely to engage in the hurt cycle. All right, so moving on to the second. So the second method for stopping the hurt cycle in stepfamily as a stepmom is self-awareness. Now, we just touched on that, the noting what your communication patterns are, writing them down, write down your triggers. I also want to encourage you to pay attention to your body. So self-awareness, often that's thought of as something mental, like I know who I am and what I care about, what my values are. Also, just awareness of what's going on in your body. And so I would say practice that when you're not in conflict, as well as when you are in a situation that it could become conflict or already is. So for example, drive-through, McDonald's drive-through. What are you feeling in your body? Pumping the gas. What are you feeling in your body? Buying groceries. Stop in the aisle. Do a little body scan. Oh, where in my body am I feeling what? What am I feeling? What are the sensations? Is there an emotion there? All right, just do this at normal times. While going for a walk, just stop. And then that way, when you're having a conversation with your partner, let's say, or anyone, and you remember to tune into your body and what you're feeling, and you're able to, because you've kind of established that habit, that interrupts the pattern. It's amazing. So let's say I'm talking with my partner and we're talking about who is going to drive the kids to school on Wednesday morning. I had to restart because 3 motorcycles just went by. So we're talking about Wednesday morning, who's going to take the kids to school. I'm not able to. I usually do. So we're going to have this conversation, right? During the conversation, I'm checking in with myself as we're talking. What am I experiencing in my body? Because that will help me notice if I'm getting triggered. And that it can also interrupt nervousness. My partner may experience me being more present, actually, because I'm not getting wound up into some unconscious place. I'm staying more present to my own body, right? So I'm actually being more present to them as well. It's pretty cool. And then I'm more likely to be able to use a method like the STAR method or other methods of communication that stop the hurt cycle. So that is a tip for you as well. Moving on to the third method, seeking professional help. The third method I've mentioned earlier, if you think of it like the hug around self-awareness and using a communication pattern like STAR, right? That professional help, in the back of your mind during the conversation, you're not standing there alone. You have a coach or a counselor, right? Who you're going to be able to call afterwards, who helped you prep for the conversation. You're not alone. And that makes a big difference. There is expert help out there. I just spoke with a stepmom yesterday, just had her over for dinner, a new friend, and I didn't know she had been a stepmom. And it turned out she'd been a stepmom years ago, and she ended up leaving. That situation, she did not know there was such a thing as expert help for being a stepmom. And their hurt cycle in that relationship was pretty profound. When she found out that I happened to be a stepmom coach, it was a revelation for her, a whole paradigm shift for her. And she she said if she had had expert help back then, it might have actually helped stop the hurt cycle. Who knows how her life would have been different. She is happily remarried. It all turned out fine. But knowing that you have expert help while you're in stepfamily can do two things. And, we could talk about stopping the hurt cycle in relationships. And this is one of the things that makes me unusual as a stepmom coach or as a relationship coach is I'm not only focused on helping you stay in a relationship. I see two paths. Stay in the relationship happy and healthy, or leave the relationship happy and healthy. Either of those means stopping the hurt cycle. So no matter what, that's what I encourage you to do. Knowing ahead of time that that is your goal, is to stop the hurt cycle, it actually will help you as you're having the conversations, as you're preparing for the conversations, even as you're choosing which conversations to have. Knowing that your destination is to stop the hurt cycle, it will help you to have that conversation in a different way. It's pretty powerful. So I am your support in this, and I encourage you to seek support from me or anyone else who knows about stepfamily dynamics, because that hurt cycle often comes from treating each other like we're in a nuclear family, which can become more nuclear. It can become like an explosion if we treat it that way. This is a stepfamily, it's different. So I am your guide to reducing stepmom stress. I want you to reach out to me, check out the links below so that you can have more love and happiness in your life. And if you'd like to dive deeper into ways to stop the stepfamily hurt cycle, you can check out the next video. Remember, you matter.